Welcome in, everybody. This is Pro Football Enterprises. I am Ben Parker, joined by Shane Ratliff and Austin Freed. As always, really appreciate you dropping in. I'm not going to show it tonight, but we have lots of prospects for those of you that want to see and hear more. We try to cover as many people as we can. We really started with the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. We hit a healthy number of them. We didn't even hit everybody who's going to be relevant come draft time. All right, these guys rise up sometimes out of the ashes, right? So we haven't yet hit everybody who's relevant, but we did try to hit as many of them as we can, give you a good early feel for that. So please check that out elsewhere on this channel. Some of them are playlisted in groups, some of them are playlisted singly. Tonight's prospect is Nick Singleton from Penn State. We'll go to Shane here in just a second. He is 6 foot. He is 225 pounds. His 24 numbers were almost 1,100 rushing yards at a clip of 6.4 per carry. He had 12 touchdowns on the ground. He also added 41 catches for 375 yards through the air for Penn State in 2025 so far. And again, a reminder, as we do some of these in season, these 25 numbers will have changed by the time you see them. 52 carries for 200 rushing yards, 3.8 yards a clip, and 5 touchdowns so far. Shane, go ahead and give us the lowdown on Nick Singleton.
So I think it's apropos that both the guys we've talk about running backs are a little bit down for their 2025 versus
Yeah.
2024 year. With Nick Singleton, uh, the problem is for him is he's a big back and he's at Penn State. So people automatically think that that means you should be Saquon Barkley, you should be Kajana Carter, you should be all these other powerful Penn State running backs. And that is not what Nick Singleton is. The offense for him has not gone well this year. I think it's a question mark for Penn State all around. He, however, I will say, carries his weight well. I don't think he's as dynamic as people thought he was going to be early on in his career, and I think that that's one of the marks they have against him. Defensive is obviously key to hunt him this year. He is a back, however, that I'm down on this year. I don't see a lot that sticks out to me for what you're looking for. He is a powerful runner. I don't think he has true breakaway speed. Uh, Hands have been okay, but he's not used a ton in that way in their offense. Um, Pass protection has its moments, but I think technique wise, it's not great. I think his size helps him on that. So he would be a back that, I think has some traits that will get you some yardage and be useful in the NFL, but I'm not as high as on him as I've seen some other people on him this year, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be one of those people, but even I will admit the 25 is not as good as the 24. And it may not just be a numbers thing, and it may not just be a defensive key thing. It may be a him thing. And if it's a him thing, I'm not as high on him as I was looking at the 24 tape. So, Nick Singleton, Austin, give it to us, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you just look at the athletic profile, you would think this guy is, a sure thing top 10 pick in the NFL, but he just hasn't necessarily played that way. I think in the last couple few years, I don't think his 2024 season, while very good, even lived up to sort of that expectations you see when you just kind of see the specimen that he is. The 2025 tape is, I mean, underwhelming is a big understatement. Like it has been disastrous, I think, for his draft stock. He looks unsure of himself. He looks like he is waiting for a hole to just open up and part like the Red Seas. Like he thinks he's running behind, you know, the best offensive line that's ever graced a football field. He doesn't have that sort of, and I've always thought his vision was solid in previous years, but it looks
Mm-hmm.
like he is just waiting for something. He thinks he's like prime Le'Veon Bell or something, and like the Steelers' offense is just gonna, oh, just oh my God, there's a 7 yard gap to just run through, like prime Le'Veon Bell did behind,
Right.
one of the best offensive lines of the 2010s. Uh, And that's just not the case. And it is looked bad. I think he has a skill set though that translates, and I could definitely see him being a guy who sort of has this weird Ollie Gordon-esque last year, just kind of downfall. And you're like, what the hell happened? And then he gets drafted to the NFL, and some of those kinks get kind of worked out, and then Ollie Gordon looks good for the Dolphins this year. And I definitely could see that happening with Singleton, where it's like, oh, okay, they kind of ironed all the stuff out that made him like logjam, and he's good now. And I'm hoping that's the case with him because he is someone who just has too much athletic ability to be playing at the level he is. He has to take a step up. And that's not to say he's going to go into the NFL and be an all pro. I don't think that's the case necessarily. It's definitely in the cards. But when you look at someone who has his level of power, speed, and one of my favorite traits he has is his sort of lateral agility. Like he makes some of the nastiest jump cuts, and like he just kind of teleports sometimes. It's like, oh, he's gonna run inside the tackles. Nope, he's outside and he's gone. And that's what we saw a lot of when he was at his best. So I think this is a guy who I am willing to gamble on and be wrong as long as it's not too early in the draft process. I think this is a guy who is going to have a monster combine. If he doesn't do the combine, then I would be worried. But I think he's going to got permitting health. If he's healthy, he will do the combine. If he doesn't, and I'm like, okay, what is he trying to hide? Because I think he should be a combine monster that raises his draft stock again.
Excellent work there. I'm going to read you off my notes off Nick Singleton here in a second. We'll come back to both of you for a final thought. I think Nick Singleton raises some very good questions here because of not only the expectations as he's been recruited, period, but the 24 numbers versus the 25 results. So maybe give us a range of high end, low end, where you think you might be interested in him at, if you know whatever that is, and as opposed to just a single round. All right, here we go. Nick Singleton, explosive, can really explode through a hole with great burst. I mean, I really like that explosiveness through the hole. Shane mentioned, and he's right, he does not have a great top end speed. It's just not there. He's not going to run away from everybody, but that burst through the hole, at least in 24, was very explosive. I love that. So basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit you with my 24 numbers, and then I'm going to hit the 25 stuff. Loved the explosion through the hole. Great burst. Very dangerous as a receiving threat and consistently productive. He would run. He's not just going out to the flat. He's running routes to the middle. He will run, a select number of routes that allows him to get open in the middle of the field. He's actually running these routes, and they used him as that a lot in 24. You could see that there with the 40 catches and the almost 400 yards. Very balanced. Seems to have a nose for the end zone and for first downs. I noticed. Whenever there was that extra yard that needed to be gotten, he seemed to often in 24 get across the line. He seemed to find that goal line and first down line very well. He seemed to be very aware of that. He is fast, but he does not outrun defensive backs. That's just not going to happen. He's just not that kind of a guy. But he is fast for what you need. Smooth, good cuts. Austin, you mentioned the cuts. Good cuts, has the smooth cuts and maintains the speed. He doesn't lose speed. I noticed. He maintains the speed very well, which is important. Tough and physical and patient. Had an excellent run blocking offensive line last year in 24. So I liked all of that. A couple last things here. Really, really good cutback. Austin, you mentioned that again. Really good cutback. You mentioned nasty was the word. I just wrote really, really good. Nasty is the right word, right? Much, much better at running north, south, and east, west. And I'm fine with that. All right. This dude is not gonna, cut out to the tackles and dance around and shake and bake. None of that. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with the guy who's just gonna run north and south. That is what he is. He is not ever going to be, shake and bake kind of a guy. North south, let's burst through the hole, let's get everything we can get, let's hit somebody, and then that's the end of the play, right? So I really do like that kind of running, but he is not a dancer. Physical blocker, but as always, the technique could be improved. It's good solid work on the blocking. I like that. Not super elusive, not a lot of shake and bake. So that's the 24 tape. The 25 tape, everything y'all said is right. And again, I don't know why. I'm not a huge fan of the Penn State offense. Haven't been for a couple of years now. I'm not a fan of the design necessarily. I'm not a fan of the development of some of these players. They bring in a ton of talent and they work with it and they win games, but I just don't see it as being consistently productive and efficient and creative as I would like for it to be, unfortunately. And so I don't know if that's the problem with Nick Singleton or if he just showed up this year unfocused. I don't know. Or if defenses are keen on him and it has shaken his confidence. I don't know. It's not the same though. In 25, it just has not been the same. So that gives me some pause here on what I think about him. I'm very interested in him late in the first round, early second round until I watch him in 25. And then I'm like, well, dang it, that's not what I bargained for. That's not what I was trying to get after. So, if this continues the 25 stuff, then he's going to fall mid second, late second. I think for me, I wouldn't let him drop out of the second round just based on what I did see in 24. But there are some questions here. So I think we started with Shane. Shane, back to you. Final thought and your range of where you might be drafting him.
So, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said, Ben, especially with his power through the hole and his speed through. Um, the key thing that Austin hit on that I see is there's a delay. I don't think it's a fear. I think in some ways it's him overestimating his athletic talent, where he thinks I'm going to be able to get that edge. I'm going to be able to get around this guy. I can defeat two defenders. Those type of things that have affected him most. Um, I think, like Austin said, he should be a combine warrior where his physical traits demonstrate that he should be selected way higher than I'm going to tell you. And that you may get a chance that a team reaches up and gets him. But I think he's a late second, early third round guy right now. I think the best thing that he has, as you mentioned, is I'm not going to say it's a diverse route tree, but he does run a good route tree. He can play off the ball in that form. And that gives him another thing above a lot of tailbacks right now. But this year, and Austin hit on it as well, this is a guy that has also been watched since he was a freshman, because he had moments where he demonstrated this body has been there, the talent has been there, and last year it culminated with some good numbers, but I don't think it reached what even he thinks that he should have been able to attain. And I think this year is starting off on another downward spiral for him as well.
All right, Austin.
He's a player I'd be willing to take a shot at and just take a gamble in the second round. I think at any point in the second round, and this goes back to what I was talking about with the combine. I would be willing to bet we're gonna go and see him run in the low 4.4s or faster. We're gonna see him jump over 10 feet in the broad. We're gonna see him put up 25 plus reps on the bench, and we're gonna see some and just incredible athletic scores. I like the RAS, the relative athletic score numbers, and I think he's going to be a 9.9 or a 10.0. Like that's as good as you can be in just terms of athleticism. And there's going to be teams, or almost reminds me of like Brees Hall kind of had this, where he hit the combine, ran in the 4.3s, and just was kind of out of this world physically, and everybody was like, hey, maybe there's more there. I think it's going to be the same thing with him. So I think he's going to be someone who's taken in the second round. I think the lottery ticket is just worth it at that point, for most people, and I would kind of agree. I think you got to risk it.
Yeah, I agree. That to me, there's enough there. If it were just 24 tape, and I thought I was getting 24 tape Singleton, I'd start considering late first round. But that's not what we're getting right now. So, but you guys have already mentioned the athleticism, the enough speed, the power, the size. There's enough there that, well, I don't want to let this guy get out of the second round. You mentioned RAS scores. The Washington Commanders, for instance, are a team that one of the things they do love to draft by is RAS scores. It's not the only thing, of course, but most of their draft picks do very well when it comes to RAS scores. So just keep that in mind. Some teams like that, you know, it hits a certain apex, right? You're like, hey, this guy's hitting too many of our boxes for us not to draft him here somewhere. Probably second round, I think is probably about where he gets out of. So, all right. That is Nick Singleton from Penn State. Shane, Austin, thank you very much. Everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great one and goodbye.